We are live. Yes, I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Levagon's Power Tech Talk today. Um, just first thing first, if you can hear us, if you can see us, just write it on the chat, say just a quick hi, just to make sure that everything runs smoothly as always. For the ones who are here for the first time, my name is Chiara. I'm the marketing and events manager here at Levagon in Lisbon. And welcome again, everybody, on this Tuesday evening for our tech talk. Of course, I'm not alone, as usual. I have a very special guest with us today, who is Eduardo Pereira, engineering manager at Remote. Plus, I'm not even alone here at campus. Today I'm at the campus of Levagon Lisbon, and I'm live with some of the students of batch 683, our web development full-time students who just began their journey. You're on the second week, right? Okay, they're saying yes, nodding yes. Okay, they're on their week 2, and this is the very beginning of their journey, and that's why we wanted to share with our community and with our students another great talk with a new company, not so new, but let's say a name who's becoming bigger and bigger lately. And we're going to see with Eduardo what they do. Before we start, maybe we'll just spend a couple of minutes sharing some more information before we wait for everybody to join and dig deeper into today's talk. Who we are. What is Levagon? Levagon is basically a coding school. We are everywhere in the world. We're based in 45 cities around the world, so pretty much everywhere. And what do? We offer courses in either web development or data science. And why do we do that? Because we want to empower people through technology, and we want to open, let's say, new doors and opportunities for them, either to change their career path or to upskill what they currently do in their job. And let's say, open many possibilities, either become a freelancer, start their own business, their own startup. So many reasons why we have so many people joining us. And if you're interested, of course, in joining us in one of our boot camps, feel free, of course, to contact me, to send me a message in the chat. And we have a new intake. The fall batch is going to start on October the 11th. So you still have a couple of months if you're interested in joining us. But let's just go back then finally to today. Today we have Eduardo from Remote, as we said. Remote is basically a company, correct me if I'm wrong, Eduardo, but it's a company that provides different HR solutions, such as payroll, benefits, taxes, and compliance. And what is special about Remote is that they provide this service for companies whose teams are spread all over the world and are working remotely. Of course, right now, all we hear is remote work, digital nomads, freelancers. So, of course, lately, after the spread of the pandemic, this kind of business gained more and more attention and interest of companies, of normal people, let's say, but also of investors, luckily for Remote, who recently received a 150 million Series B funding, which made possible for Remote to become the 5th unicorn to be based or to be funded, let's say, not based because Remote is based everywhere, to be funded in Portugal, among other companies such as Talkdesk or Farfetch. Let's say that I won't be spending too much more time on this because we are lucky enough to have Eduardo today with us. He's going to start with a quick presentation, I assume around 20-25 minutes, talking about Remote and his story, and then we will have a live Q&A. I already have many questions and curiosities for Eduardo, but of course, if you guys have any questions, you can write them beforehand on the questions tab. So you have the chat and the questions tab. It is easier for you to write it on the questions tab. You can also upvote the questions that you want to see answered to make it easier. And we're going to go through the questions and curiosities at the end of the presentation. let's not wait anymore. Stage is yours, Eduard.
All right. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm just gonna start sharing my screen. See if I don't mess this up. Okay. I think it looks good. Can you confirm that it looks good? Yeah, probably does. Okay. So yeah, going above and beyond from 2 to 300 employees in 2 years or less. See if it's working properly. So hello, I'm Eduardo. And at this point, I'm the most tenured employee at Remote. I started working in Remote in February 2019, only a couple of weeks actually after it was founded. And what is Remote? Remote was founded by Joop van der Voort and Marcel Leber after seeing the benefits of remote work. They envisioned a company that allowed any other company to basically create a global team and benefit from working remotely. And this was 2 years ago. Fast forward 2 years, and now Remote is a company that empowers other companies of all sizes and shapes to pay and manage full-time and contract workers around the world. We take care of international payroll, benefits, taxes, stock options, and compliance in dozens and dozens of countries. And we have people all over the globe in several continents building culturally aware employment packages that will help you build trust with your global team. So, as I said at the beginning, as the topic of the presentation, what is it like growing so fast? What are the hardships of growing so fast? So, if you are not careful, it's a big mess. And if you're careful, it's a smaller, manageable mess. Why do I say it's a mess? So you got to consider that hiring the wrong person is among the worst things that you can do as a company. It's all the time that you lose on someone that is not a fit on your team. You got to consider all the hiring process, all the interviews, onboarding, all this. But at the same time, you also have to consider that the hiree is also losing time. It's a big cost for them too, because they just changed companies, they're starting at a new company, and it doesn't fit for them. Of course, the relationship between the company and employees, it's based on how you fit with, and how you work together. So the human cost is far too big in this situation. And this is especially true if you're talking about an asynchronous or global team. And what is asynchronous work? Asynchronous work is a task and communication management system that ensures group cohesion, quality output, and smooth progress in the absence of a single time zone and continuous supervision. So this means that it relies a lot on autonomy from the teams that are applying this methodology. So we put a great deal of care into the profiles we hire. How will this person that lives across the globe in a completely different time zone, how are they going to fit in the organization? How can we allow them to be productive and achieve their best work in this situation? So how do we do it? Hiring profiles, we rely a lot on our values. Our values are kindness, excellence, ownership, transparency, and ambition. And we've basically operationalized our values across the entire company. We apply them on our day-to-day work, in everything we do, and every action we take. We should be measuring our actions based on this. Am I being kind? Am I communicating properly? Am I being autonomous? And am I being transparent? All these values, we measure them through the lens of what we do. And these values, and I gotta say, This is something that I truly believe. These values sit at our core, and we are merely documenting them. This list is merely a documentation of what we apply on our day-to-day. And I'm quite proud to say that they were not artificially created as a goal for us to reach. They're not a marketing stunt. They're nothing of sorts. They are at our core, and we apply them from day one. From since we were 2, 3, 10 to this day that we are 300, more than 300 at this point. So when we are interviewing someone or when we are onboarding someone into the company, we closely monitor how would this person fit into the organization in accordance to these values. And I'm going to go a bit more on detail because it's important to understand what are our values and why do we care so much about them. So again, our first value is kindness. So we expect every remote employee to be kind. This goes to all communication and decision making. We are all humans and we deserve to be treated as such. We should assume good intent, we should help each other out, and we should especially care for each other. You are not expected to put your job in front of yourself, in front of your health. You need to take breaks and rest. I know what happens when you don't take breaks and you don't rest, and it's definitely not good for your health. So again, are you working on with someone on a big project and they make a mistake? Be kind, be helpful, help them sort this out, help resolve the situation. Are you reviewing a merge request or a pull request and you don't quite agree with the approach they're taking? Communicate in a kind way, suggest a different approach, or even give an example. This can be the difference between a short, productive discussion with a swift outcome, or a defensive discussion that will go on and on and on for a while, and it's definitely not productive. The same way that you should be kind, you should also expect kindness. Sometimes there will be negative interactions. Perhaps this could be a miscommunication, perhaps someone is having a bad day, but if you are not comfortable with how you were treated, you should reach out, and this is very important. And it ties into the transparency bit, but I'm going to explain it a bit. But you should definitely say if you are not being well treated with kindness. The next one is excellence. Now, we expect every remote employee to be excellent. Excellence extends to everything we do. How we code, how we treat people, the things we build, and even how we interact with our customers. We always have to strive for excellence. We're trying to make hard, boring things like payroll, contracts, legislation. There's a bunch of boring, hard things, and we want to be able to make these things easy for our customers. And we have to consider we are working for people. We are handling their contracts, we're handling their salaries, we're basically handling their livelihood. You can imagine that any mistake that you make could cause someone to miss a salary for a few days, even if it's for a few days. It could be not everyone has the capacity of having their salaries late for a few days. We must be perfect. We also want to delight our customers, no matter what. We should be basically obsessed with their happiness and with their success. This is how you do business as a company, and this is how you succeed as a business. Talent is global. So we want to basically give the opportunity everyone in the world they deserve. You shouldn't be restricted from where you live to get a great job and a great opportunity in life and be paid what you deserve. So, and this is a very ambitious goal, and this is not simple. And so, for us to be able to achieve it, we must strive for excellence. Now, the next one is ownership. We expect every remote employee to display ownership. Remote basically is the product of all its contributors. It's not the brainchild of management, and you should treat it as your own. You should always act in the best benefit of remote. So just don't just do what you're told. You should be autonomous. Do you see something wrong? Fix it. Is it something that you cannot fix alone? Well, document it, get someone to help, and fix it. And this does not only go for your area of expertise. You see someone on something on a different department that you think you should be improved. Try to fix it, handle it, speak out, do something about it. Don't stay idle. You see something, you say something. And this also ties in a bit with transparency, which is the one I'm going to talk next, the value we're going to talk next. Another thing is everything is mutable. Our product and our company is not set in stone. We take a very iterative approach to everything we do, from code to processes to business, right? So you should promote change and you should promote improvements. Because if you iterate fast, that's how you are actually capable of measuring the impacts of the changes that you promote. You don't need to wait for it. You can just release small versions of what you're trying to achieve, measure the impact until you get to a point where you feel like it's perfect, like I said previously. Another thing is that we trust you. You go and make the judgment. And again, if it's wrong, if the outcome is something that you were not expecting, it's fine. We can iterate on it. Just don't stay idle. See an important bug on the platform. Don't wait around. Always default to action. This is a very important quote, and we use it constantly. Always default to action. To move fast, you need to take decisions. And if you're seeking consensus, this will always only slow you down. The only decisions that are ever worth taking a long time are the irreversible ones. Next, we got transparency. We expect every remote employee to be transparent. Be clear on what you're doing and over-communicate. Over-communicate a lot. If you ever feel like you're being annoying, that's where you want to be. You want to be annoying. You want to let everyone know what you're doing and what you're thinking. Again, do it a lot. Because we work asynchronously. The only way we should ever be sharing information is through documentation. You should be constantly writing things down, writing what you're doing, writing your thoughts, writing documentation, basically, and share it over in open channels. That is the only way you're ever going to get someone across the globe to collaborate with you and contribute to your initiatives, is if they have awareness that they're happening. So that goes into the next point. Bring awareness to everything you do. Do you believe that we should be improving something on a code base? Should we basically be using a different HTTP client for an external integrations? Go ahead, create an RFC. An RFC is a request for comments. This is like a document where we discuss improvements to processes and code bases and everything that we do. Do you think that you should be writing what you think we should improve on, how we should improve on, when should we improve on, all these thoughts should be there. And that's how you bring awareness to the things you're doing. Due to our synchronous nature, using the right kind of communication is really, really important. We are definitely documentation first. Is anyone looking for a piece of information? Is anyone on a Slack channel asking an important question about something that you worked on? The first thing you should be doing, hopefully, is linking a piece of documentation. Someone asks, how does this process work? Here's the link. Is there not a piece of documentation? Did you not write it yet? That's fine. We're all humans. We make mistakes. Answer it and then take the answer and document it. Next time, you can start linking the documentation you just wrote. Don't ever decide things over Slack, or even worse, in a meeting. We don't do a lot of meetings. Another thing is the handshake protocol. This is so, so important. If you're working on something and you're working on implementing a front end for this feature, and you think that you are stuck because the design needs to be updated, or there's something wrong with the backend and they need to fix it. Unless someone actually acknowledged the handover of the action point, it didn't happen. If nobody acknowledged it, it's still your thing to own, your process to own. This promotes both ownership and it avoids something that is really bad, which is throwing over the fence behaviors and silos, basically. So again, handing over something, you must get acknowledged that the other person actually received the item on their side. Last value, ambition. We expect every single remote employee to be ambitious. We, as I explained before, we're trying to achieve really hard things. You need to be ambitious to be able to do it. You need to be ambitious about speed. You need to be ambitious about quality. And you need to be ambitious about excellence. We constantly strive for personal and professional growth. We are all, in the company, we are all encouraged to go above and beyond, to leave our comfort zone. Case in point, me giving this talk. We should not be afraid to fail and make mistakes. You should fail fast and learn fast. These are our values, and we do not compromise on our values. So working from home is great, but not everyone will be fit for it. Not everyone is going to have the profile to work remotely. Some people work better under supervision. Some people work better in a work office setting. Some people just miss the human interaction that comes from working on an office. Not everyone is the same, and that is fine. But perhaps you need to understand that if you have that profile, you should be probably working on a synchronous environment. Now, what did I build up to? Is how do you fit into all this? How do you fit into remote? How do you fit into any other fast-growing, fast-paced startup? Or if you had to put it in other terms, how do you find great remote jobs? How do you stand out? You should get ready. If you want to fit into a fast-paced startup, you cannot just walk. You got to be ready to run. When you graduate, it being from college, it being from university, it being from a boot camp, you need to be ready. You're only learning to walk right now. You should be ready to run. You need to stay updated, you need to stay sharp, and you need to consolidate your knowledge. Learn something new on the side. Go do some tutorials. Start a side project. or you would learn a new language. The thing you're learning right now, it could become obsolete in 5 years. Things move that fast. Just find a newsletter, find a forum, a tech forum for articles, and keep being constantly updated. Even follow someone interesting on Twitter. Some things, something small like that, you might learn. You might be surprised how many things you learn just by paying attention to these sources. And this is very specific for someone that is just graduating, but I don't want you to think that I'm saying that you cannot have personal time and you should be constantly just going at it. But I truly believe that there's a time and place for that when you're already established. I graduated from college, and it's I've been there. I know what I knew at the time, and it gave me a lot of the base for growth. But you need to be constantly improving yourself. You also need to stand out. Specifically for remote, we expect you to be autonomous quickly, within reason, of course. It depends on your experience and on your level. But autonomy is the only way a remote environment will ever work and will ever function. We only got this far because we've built an amazing team with amazing people that are very autonomous and they fit with our values. You need to be self-aware. It's very important for you to be self-aware. You should know what you know, and you should know what you need to learn in the future for your next job, for your next position. Just keeping a roadmap of the things you need to learn. Not knowing something is okay, but it's part of self-improvement. We as a company, we want to know exactly the extent of what we can do, because that is the only way we can align our expectations and your expectations too. So you need to be honest to yourself and to us and to everyone. Also, look into our values, look into our handbook. Every information about the company is there. It's open for everyone to read. If a company does not have an handbook, just research it out a bit. Remote, for me, it's an amazing place to work in, and honestly, probably the best one I'll ever work at. That's quite kind of sweet and sour thing to say, but I truly believe that. But you need to understand what you're applying to, right? Don't expect to learn what remote or any other company is during the interview. That's pretty bad. You should show that you care. You should prepare the interview and have a good cover letter. Please have a good cover letter. It goes miles in a good recruitment process. Another thing is you need to be intentional. Even though you're probably applying for more jobs, you should care for each single one of them as if it was the only one. If you show yourself indifference, you will probably cause the company to reject you within a few minutes. As soon as we notice indifference, that you don't care, that you didn't do your homework, it's bad. So show up prepared and know what you're applying to. And now, what I'm saying, it might sound very obvious to you, but you wouldn't imagine what you get sometimes. So these are the things that I think you should focus on to find great remote jobs. But again, you need to understand if you fit into a remote job. You need to introspect and understand, do I have the profile? Am I going to miss all the things that I have in an office, the human interaction? You need to be very conscious about the choice. And if you are certain, go for it. There's a ton and a ton of great remote jobs out there. I love it. And I gotta say, I don't think I'll ever go back to an office space. I'm sorry, not even a coworker. I'm just gonna stay at home, be productive, and do the things I love. So basically, there are great jobs, great remote jobs out there. And I truly hope that remote will be there to support you. And that was it. Thank you. So Q&A. We got a moment
Thank
for
you.
some questions.
Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you so much for your presentation. May I ask you maybe just to stop sharing your screen so we can see you in full screen here from the campus?
Of course.
Thank you so
This one?
much.
Thank you.
Good, great. Thank you so much. Actually, it's really interesting that you are sharing the values. Actually, I was having a look at the remote website and everything, and actually, you can, as you said, you can access to the handbook, which is a Notion page where you actually have all the values up there, like completely clear, transparent, and this is the thing that I like pretty much about remote. Not only about the concept itself in general, but the transparency and the value that you guys transmit, and the way that you actually managed to keep them in such a big team who is working fully remotely. But we're gonna have a look at that in the Q&A. As you gave us an introduction about remote as a company and how you guys work, the values that it's built upon. I decided actually to do a little switch in the Q&A and to make some more questions that are directly to you, more personal, in the sense that I would like to understand a person working in tech, in your case as an engineering manager. What do you do? How do you feel? How did you come to this position? So I would start from this point, actually. If you could share a little bit about who you are, like your educational background, your work background. I actually know, fun fact, that you work with some Wagon teachers. I found it out the other day with Ricardo. So I guess the tech environment in Lisbon is pretty small. But yeah.
No, sure. Yeah, so I graduated from computer science in Aveiro, I don't know, in 2012. And throughout all my career, I'm basically focusing on startup jobs for the most case. I think it's the most we're gonna be more challenged, both technically and with the products you work with. And I feel like at this point I'm very privileged to work at a company where I truly think that have an amazing impact, or the ability to have an amazing impact in the world. Basically, I think our values are very noble. The things that we're trying to achieve are very noble, and in that regard, I'm very privileged. You also asked, perhaps, how did I get to start working at remote? So I knew the founders from previously. I worked with the CTO Marcel Leb for quite a few years now, and I was in as soon as I heard the idea. This is amazing. This is something that I resonate with so much. Let's do it. Let's embark on this amazing journey to create this amazing company. And just thinking back, I was the third person, right? And now we're 300 in 2 years. It's at some point I lost track. So you can just, I think after, I don't know, 70 people, I don't know, half of the people that are entering. It's so overwhelming. Every week we get a dozen people, half a dozen people. It's just insane. It started growing a few years. We started off normally, I'd say, for like a year, and then it just exploded. I don't know what happened. It was just we fundraise it, and then we just grew, and it's insane. And it's also very endearing thinking today, where, given our growth, where the hell are we going to be in 1 year?
How many people work in remote right now? And
It's
from how many countries?
over, so we are too many. I should know this by heart, but we are over 300. And if I'm not mistaken, it's about 50 countries at this point. We started with a very strong Portuguese based in the beginning. We hired because that's usually the path you take when you're starting off. You just try to get the amazing people you already know and you invite them for this opportunity, let's say. But then at some point we just decide, no, this is going to go global, and we just went global. We hired a ton of people in the Americas. We hired a ton of people in Asia and Africa. We have people everywhere. We even have we have an engineer in Kyrgyzstan, which is pretty amazing. So we have people everywhere. It's great.
Nice, and I get it. It's a super interesting structure and work environment, of course. And I was just wondering, like you said, you were the first person actually to be hired by remote, and that was 2 years ago. And as you said, many things going on, many changes. It actually exploded. How was it back in the days, to work with this kind of startup and before the pandemic? So before this whole thing of the remote work hit.
So yeah, when it's pretty, it's nostalgic looking back, but these things just it's very cliche, but these things start off like a college project, like you would anything, and it's just we going at it, solving whatever we feel like we should be solving, going in whatever direction you think you need to go. But it's just like a university project with a bunch of people, and then it stops being, and then it gets real really fast, and it's just an amazing experience. And I gotta say that even though we might have been lucky with the lucky, that's not like it's a silver lining kind of deal, but the pandemic happened and the remote work started to be such a common word in every way in everybody's day to day. But already before the pandemic hit, we already strongly believed on everything that we believe today. And we can say that it was kind of fortunate, but I always believe that this was always going to be the case. We're going to always get there here. And at best, I feel like it was a marketing event, like everyone getting into to just talk about remote work. So it was good timing, I gotta confess.
And what about the not so nice part, let's say? Like from the beginning until now, what do you think were the main challenges and obstacles? I guess the challenges change within the time, of course, because in the beginning you have more operational kind of things, and then when things get bigger, of course, you have different obstacles. What do you think were the main challenges in setting up this kind of business? From a tech point of view, of course.
So I think only recently we started feeling some of the pains of the hyper growth. And this is kind of why I also decided to talk about our values and that we don't compromise around them, is that it's very easy when you're growing so fast, or if you don't pay attention, it's just going to dilute. Your values are going to dilute. And we were very, very, very intentional on not allowing that to happen. And this is something that I'm also quite proud of, is that the example comes from above, as it should. I feel like from the CEO to someone that we hired last week, we expect them all to show these values constantly. And we reinforce them very, very often. Every time we have the opportunity, we do an all hands. We always go over and reinforce our values. So I think the biggest pain is of hyper growing is actually that, keeping sure that you safeguard your culture, you safeguard your values, and you keep reinforcing them constantly, which I think we do.
Which I guess it's a big challenge in the growth process of a company, especially probably in the jump that you took with the spread of the pandemic, and then of course the change of the work scenario and the change then in the kind of business that you offer, or at least the leap that you took. But let's just go a little bit deep then into your professional life, like the life of an engineering manager at remote, what do you do every day concretely? What are your daily tasks? How does your day look like?
So, as an engineering manager at Remote, I'm expected to promote the team initiatives. I'm managing currently two engineering teams or sub teams, and each one of these teams has a particular domain. So we kind of split the company into various domains. So let's say payroll, payment, all these different areas, and I'm responsible for two of them. And my day to day is make sure. So these teams, these cross-functional teams, they have goals, they have objectives, they have deliverables, and me, an engineering manager, I constantly want to strive for allowing the team to deliver what they need to deliver according to our values. And often is the case that I'll be helping out in whatever measure I can, just to allow the teams to actually focus on the things that they're doing. Right? I want to unblock. I want my teams to worry about nothing else rather than doing the things that they are doing the best, and they probably do better than me, because you should always hire people that are better than you. That's how you grow. So to just code and deliver and not having to worry about anything else.
Nice. And really quick question: what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say what is the thing that you like the most about your job, and what is the thing that you like the least about your job?
Oh, that's a pretty good question. So one of the things, I already kind of went over it, but one of the things that I love about my job is, first, I get to work with this group of amazing people, world class team. I truly believe this. This is a world class team, and being constantly challenged by them, because seeing so much talent, it also motivates me to be better constantly. Right. This is one of the amazing teams. And the other amazing thing is kind of like what I was going to say is that I get to work on something that I truly believe in. It's it's often the case that a company or startups, they say that they're changing the world, but personally, I don't think they're actually changing the world. They're just a niche, and to some degree, some companies actually hurt the world a bit. And I feel like remote. I'm very privileged in that. I feel like remote is changing the world, even if ever so slightly, to a better place, and this motivates me deeply. So, and about that things, or the least favorite thing this moment, is that I love working remotely, but the pandemic is starting to get to me. I want to be able to just one day per month or 2 days per month get together and see some faces. I don't know half the height of the people that I work with, which is a thing that you're just used to seeing them over remote, and I very much miss having like team bonding moments personally. But that's just because the pandemic is hitting quite hard at this moment, and I'm starting to miss going the outside. I gotta say again, I'm very privileged that the day that the pandemic started, my life didn't change, because I was already working remote. I was already working for work, and a lot of people don't have the privilege to say that. A lot of people had their lives changing completely, and that was not the case for me. So I got to be very thankful. Either way, I miss some human interaction at this point.
I mean, I think it's a shared feeling for most of the people who have been working remotely, right? Because remote work does not only mean working from home; it means being able, as you promote, to be able to work basically wherever you like, whenever you like. And
That's
this does not only mean not being able to see faces that you deal with every day. But let's just move maybe to the questions that we have here from the people who are participating today. Actually, there is a question from Nuno Loureiro, who are our general manager. He's following us online. it's actually, that would have been my next question, to be honest. So let's just have a look at this. What have been the key good practices and tools for managing a multicultural tech team, which is fully remote and in different time zones? So yeah, as we said, you are managing a quite big team everywhere in the world, which also implies different cultures and people working at different times. So I guess it's a bit of a challenge. And how do you solve that? What's your solution?
This is why we don't compromise on our values. So communication, it's and autonomy basically are so important to make sure that the team is well gelled and everything goes correctly. You won't be able, like in an office, you won't be able to go and look over your shoulder and seeing what they're doing. You don't you don't even have the possibility to micro. It's impossible. So you need to trust the people you work with, and there has to be amazing communication channels set up for you to work asynchronously. That's the only way it's going to ever work. Of course, we're going to have not so often, but perhaps we'll start a pairing session. Perhaps we start a small sync, but this is not the default. The default is documentation first, default to action. We use GitLab, we use Notion. These are the tools we have. We don't have anything fancy. Our tool is asynchronous work.
All right, nice, thank you. Let me go here. Actually, there is a question from Preston that I will keep at the end because that's actually a question that I would have saved for the end. Meanwhile, actually, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to write them on the questions tab. Also, you guys here at campus, if you have any questions, I mean, probably the easiest way is for you to share it with us here live. Let me have a look at what I wanted to ask you. Actually, I mean, I understand that keep learning and pushing boundaries is fundamental always, as you also said. And how do you do that? How much time do you spend on learning and stay up to date? Do you have any tips for us?
So, yeah, several. There's a lot of at this point. I'm no longer at the point. Even though I also try to keep up in the tech bit. Now I'm more on the management track, so I try to focus more on reading some literature around management. But yeah, you should always keep a book on the side to read. You should always find a nice forum. We work in Elixir, so the Elixir forum is an amazing tool to be up to date. There's following José Valim, which is the creator of the Elixir language. His Twitter is super interesting. There's always something new, something popping up, something that you're going to feel like this is probably going to be relevant very soon. So I should keep an eye out. I should experiment a bit with it. It being a technical thing or a process thing, you should always keep to date. And I'm going to plug a book that I found that changed me a lot is the Toyota Way. And a lot of our values and a lot of the asynchronous work techniques that we apply on our day-to-day are very inspired by it around managing waste, just having the things ready, multiplexing. Just your team should be a well-oiled machine that delivers just in time. So if you read it, I'm not going to spoil the book too much, but if you had to take a book to read tomorrow, my recommendation is the Toyota Way.
Nice. If you want to share it also on the chat later, some tips or books or stuff that you think is pretty valuable, I think it's really much appreciated. One more question about the present, about what you do at remote. Just at a glance, what is the tech stack that you work with?
So basically, we work on the backend side, we work with Elixir. Plain Elixir API. We got Postgres as a database. We have we have logs on LogDNA. We have the infrastructure on AWS. Very simple tech stack. And on the front end, we have a plain React app. I'm based. I'm basically a backender as originally, so I might not be able to elaborate much further than this. But we use React on the front end, just a plain API on the back end, and an app that consumes from that API on the front end. It's very simple application. We don't need a lot of things because Elixir already very scalable, so we don't need to worry, or we haven't been worrying too much about any scalability issues or just getting any elaborate implementation. The stack itself is very solid.
All right, thank you. So I think that we can move on from the present to the future. So I have another question for you. How do you see the future of remote now that you received such a big funding right now, 150 million, as we said? How do you see the future of remote and your future as well? Do you see yourself in remote, or which project do you see yourself internally and externally of the company?
It's I love it here. It's don't ask me what I'm going to be doing on the future. It's probably here. I love it here. I think that for remote, I think the sky is the limit. Basically, the payroll HRS world is such a massive thing. There's so many things to do, and we want to do it all. We want to own it all. We want to be the remote platform. So, and we're only on our path there. There's so much to grow. We have some insights to what we're going to be doing in the future, and it's all the sky's the limit at this point.
Which projects do you have right now in pipeline? Like I was looking at the website and I saw that you have something of an API. Correct me if I'm wrong. An API service for companies. Like what are the new fresh projects that you have
Oh,
in pipeline and working
yeah,
on?
yeah. So we are working on one of the things we're working on is allowing other companies to integrate with our payroll services, which is probably what you're seeing. But we're working on so many things from payments to contract handling to contract signing. All these things are, as you can imagine, if you imagine the kind of work we do, we have so many countries to open up to. We want to be able to support as many countries as physically possible, right? And that is a big challenge, but that's partially why we're here. And we got to be ambitious, as I said before, but we want to be able to support the service that we support currently in, at this point, over 40 countries. We want to get as many of them as possible. When we want to get them all if possible.
And from a product perspective, I'm just curious because you offer many different kinds of services, and as you said, you want to kind of help companies to cover pretty much everything in terms of HR support. Right now, what is the, let's say, the bestseller or the product that is uh, working best for the companies that you feel that is like your top product at remote right now? I'm just curious to know.
So that I gotta say that the whole suit, right? Because I wouldn't say a particular one. We just have one. If you have to think about it, we just have one product per se. We don't have several products, but everything is included in a suit. We allow companies to have employee of records, which is your top of the line standard employee, and we support it in several countries, in 40 countries at this point. We also support contractors to our platform. So ideally, of course, you'd want to have it all on EOR because that's where you start giving them the true benefits of working as if you were working locally. All the safety nets of having a normal employment, let's say full-time employment, that's where we want most of the people to be in because that's the thing that will help the people the most. But we support contractors. We support paying them in dozens of currencies, in dozens of different world accounts. We pay to a lot of countries. We pay to Palestine. We pay to a lot of them. So and again, this is the product that we want to build on. We want to do the things that we already do amazingly, but in everywhere, because there's still countries today that people don't still have the opportunity to work with remote. That's the most important bit. There's a country out there and someone out there that still doesn't have the opportunity to use remote, and I think
Of
that's what we
course.
need to work on.
I mean, and there are quite many challenges if you think from a cultural point of view, from a legal perspective as well. You mentioned, for example, the
Definitely.
currencies or the workflow. I think that is one of the biggest challenges that you are embracing and that you are trying to solve. Um,
I'll give you an
let's
hint.
just
I'll
have
give you an hint. I'll give you an hint on that. Every country is going to have their tax brackets. Every country is going to have their own legislation, their own benefits, their own uh, insurance plans, all the legalities of each country. We need to be able to handle it. And that's why we also have people locally understanding these things. And if it's not on a country to country base, it's going to be by a zone base. Something we need to get people providing these services so that we can employ everywhere.
Nice. I think we have a little room for still, let's say, two more questions before we run out of time. But last call for everyone here physically at campus as well, if you have any questions. And for the ones who are joining online, last call if you want to share some more questions. On my side, we have been talking about people most of the time, right? Like remote is made out of people and is made for people to help the life of people. What about internally in remote? Talking about tech people, what type of tech talent is or will be remote looking for? What kind of tech profiles are you interested in? Let's say.
We The main thing is we're looking for amazing people, of course. Uh, it's always the case that we look for a profile. It's got to fit within our values. So we're looking for very talented people that want to continuously evolve and progress, continuously learning, continuously challenging themselves to be a better person, which is already what we expect from the people that we already have. And the kind of profiles we're looking for quite a lot of more senior people, but it never closes the door for more medium and new people. But it's always the case that we try to strike a nice balance, because here's the problem, and this happens so many times. Many times you hire a lot of more junior people, and what happened is that they kind of feel neglected because the balance of mentorship is just not there, right? And we want people to have the proper structure to grow, and for that they need support, they need help, they need direction. So I think the first thing, and it's kind of as a recommendation for everyone looking for a remote engineering job as a whole, is that you need to have that drive to keep looking for new things and keep up to date. It's such a I strongly believe that an outdated developer, engineer, whatever you want to say, it's so bad. And you see people with these old profiles. You need to keep fresh. I honestly think that you need to keep fresh, up to date, and be flexible. Be ready to understand that you might be looking at something in the wrong way and learn something new. New tech comes out every day. We keep it's to some point it might even be overwhelming, the changes that the whole environment is going through, it evolves so fast. You get new frameworks every couple of years. The standard oh, keeps changing. So you also need to be nimble and understand. Okay, maybe I should try this approach. Maybe don't be afraid to learn. Basically, don't be afraid to learn.
Nice. And I think this kind of connects to a question that we have here from Paolo that I will show right now, which in some way, Paolo is asking, how is it more difficult for junior coders that come out straight from a bootcamp to find a remote job than for experienced coders with a portfolio? I think actually you summed up right now when you mentioned the values or the kind of people that you are looking for in remote. It kind of sums up the people who decide to embark on a bootcamp journey, like you said, people with drive, people with flexibility, people able to challenge themselves, which I think it is right now more and more a profile of a person, for example, who is studying, is learning to code in a bootcamp, because it's something fast, immersive, and it's people who are most of the time willing to change their career. They come from all different backgrounds. We have people here sitting with us who are, Ines, you are from HR, right, for example? Okay, so many different profiles, coming from so many different backgrounds, and what they want to do is to have a push and change. And I think the drive here is fundamental. So I don't know if this kind of answers to the question of Paul, probably not from a technical point of view. I don't know if you want to add something about it from a technical perspective, Eduard.
No, yeah, you need to. Yeah, that kind of goes to the ambition bit I talked about. You need to understand, and this is something that I felt in introspect when I was in college. Sometimes I got my old teachers asking me, "How do you think we prepared you?" And you got to understand that what you're doing right now is just the basis of what is going to be your technical portfolio. You are just learning. You're learning to walk, and as I said, you're gonna need to run. So you need to have this profile of wanting to go there and learn. And it's amazing that some of the people that are in the boot camp, they decide, okay, I need to get a different path. I really want to do this. And it's a great start. You need to, when you graduate eventually, you need to keep it up. You need to be constantly owning your skills. So that's again, that's I perhaps I'm repeating myself a bit, but continuously learn, continuously improve. If there's any idea I want to pass on to any graduate or anyone watching, is continuously improve, continuously learn,
Nice. And
and you'll get there.
that's actually something that would have been, let's say, my last question, my last piece of advice. Let's say there is actually another question that we have here from Preston, that is, what would your top piece of advice be for someone who wants to stand out as a successful engineer at a remote company? My question would have been pretty much the same, like, as a person working in tech, working for such a fast growing company, what are your advice? Like, you already shared some stuff that we could check, read to stay up to date, but concretely, from a personal point of view, what is your lesson, let's say, that you learned throughout the years with these experiences?
I gotta say, so I am in most of the hiring of the tech hiring process, and I have to confess that the best thing and the thing that I actually get proud of it is when I see someone that just got into the company, just entered, and they're autonomously picking things up and doing them, and just taking initiative. It's the best feeling when you get someone new, and 1 week later or 2 weeks later, you notice that they're already having an impact, a real impact on our platform. Just someone picking up an issue with the bug and just throwing themselves. I know it can be hard and it can be overwhelming. You getting into a company, you're getting into a code base that by this point is 2 years old. There's always going to be, all code bases have legacy. Some of them just have recent legacy, but it's always there. So you going into this overwhelming code base, this big thing that already exists, and taking the challenge add on, and even if it's wrong, even if you end up doing something that it's not what was intended or something like that, at the very least you're moving the wheel in a way. And this moving the wheel, this is the thing that I think someone in the tech industry, in a startup like ours, a fast growing startup, that's the biggest thing. That's the thing that I look for. That's the thing that leaves me so happy when I see someone already having this impact so early on. So how do you want to stand out as a successful engineer remote company? Make an impact.
True that. I think like proactivity more than the experience itself. Like we have been talking this last part of this talk about junior people, junior coders, people who are just entering in tech. And I think what is really valued right now in many companies, from startups to bigger ones, but let's just keep it in this kind of fast growing company environment. I think what is really valued right now is curiosity, proactivity, flexibility, and
Definitely.
being able to see that bug and be proactive in letting people know that it's there, or having a new idea and just letting it out. You might fail, as you said in the presentation, you might fail many times, you might fail 1,000 times, but you might actually have the greatest idea ever again and again, and I think this is what companies are valuing right now, and human beings are valuing right now, right? Because companies are, after all, are made of people.
Yeah,
Do you have any
I always
final
say that,
words?
yeah, just to complement a bit what you said, I always think that hard skills are learnable and the soft skills are very important. This is how you show yourself to your company and to as a human being is, as you said, curiosity, impact, just going at it, taking initiative. We value all that so much, and it's really important. You'll learn the technical bits afterwards. Just be there and be ready. So yeah, thank you.
Even in tech, this thing of the curiosity, because many people think that is a tech is just, a square thing. Like being a developer is something really framed that you just need to stuck on the code, and it's not something out of the box or curious, which is actually the complete opposite. I mean, I'm not a coder, I'm not a web developer, I'm gonna be fairly honest, but I've been having these kind of people around me. So just as a personal kind of thing, I think curiosity is always much appreciated in any kind of sector, even in tech.
I agree.
So I think we are coming to an end right now, guys. I think that, do you have any questions for us? No. Or do you have, Thierry? You were looking at me. No, no questions. All right. So just to give a quick heads up, if you want to rewatch the event, if you missed the beginning or anything, you're gonna be receiving an automatic email from my live storm right now with a replay of the event. So if you missed something, or if you just simply want to rewatch it, you're free to do that, of course. And one more thing, just keep on following us. If you haven't done it yet, start following us on our social media, on Meetup, on Eventbrite, where you will be able to stay up to date with our events. We're taking not a break, but we're going a little bit slower this summer. I mean, August, everybody's going to be on holiday, but we're not going to disappear. We're just going to have a couple of talks and workshops here and there. So just pay attention to our platforms and stay up to date with our next events. Once again, thank you so much, Eduardo, for sharing your experience today. And I hope I will be seeing you guys online and here at campus next time, probably in a couple of weeks, with another Tech Talk. Thank you so much, Eduardo,
Thank
from
you so
me and
much.
from Levagon. And I hope you're going to have a nice evening, everybody.
Thank you. Bye
Ciao.
bye.
Bye, bye, bye.